This is an interesting and informative section where you will learn how to manipulate layers within the timeline. I only covered the important and useful techniques that will allow you to work faster and better. We are going to use these techniques very many times in the course. You will learn how to create a composition from multiple footage and how to automatically sequence the footage. You will also learn how to drop layers starting at a specific time, how to trim layers left and right, how to shift the content of a video layer, and also the most important is how to adjust the work area. The two lift and extract editing techniques are also covered. You will learn also how to use the source and the layer panel. It's gonna be pretty interesting. So let's jump in. Now in the previous lectures or in the beginning, you learned how to create a composition from a single footage, and also you learned how to create a blank composition to start your motion graphics or to add videos later. Here we are going to start seeing the other options of creating a new composition from multiple footage. So now let's imagine that you want to create a composition that includes all the videos plus an image. How do you do that? You can go step by step manually, and it's gonna give you a lot of headaches. In all versions of After Effects CC, that is from version 12, you can do this method. Now, the way you select your footage to create a single composition is very important. It is the way they will be, if you want, sequenced on your timeline. So let's start by something obvious. We select the image, which has a knot size here. You have 6 pixels more. Then let's select the beach. So I press Ctrl or Command on the Mac, click on beach, I selected it. Then let's select lake, then city, then forest. So image, beach, lake, city, forest. Cool. Now to create a single composition from all these footage, the best way is to right click and say new composition from selection. Cool. Let's take this choice, and the new composition from selection panel is open. First of all, create. What do you want to create? A single composition or multiple compositions? If you select multiple compositions, then you will have here 5 compositions that will be created. Not exactly what you want. You want a single composition for all the footage. Fine. Now the options here. Dimensions from. Of course, you're not gonna take the dimension from an image. You will want to take it from a video, of course, because an image is still and the video has frames per second and the dimension is better. So in our case here, they are all identical. We can choose any one of them. I will choose, for example, aerial view forest. Cool. Then the still duration. Notice that we have an image here. This is a still. You can decide like on your timeline here and how long it's gonna be in your video for 5 seconds. You can reduce this, let's say 3 seconds only as an intro, and then add to render queue, we'll see later. You have here a very nice option, is sequence layers. Sequence layers meaning putting them one after the other according to how you have selected them. You can overlap them, so there will be an overlap between the out and the in of the layers of 1 second. Pretty interesting. You can make it 2 seconds. You can do what you want. 1 second is fine. If you want to change it, you can just come and edit it and put 2, for example. I'll leave it to 1. Now, you can immediately create transitions, which is very interesting here. If you click, you can say transitions off. No transition at all. They will come, just overlapping. Or you can say dissolve the front layer or the top layer if you like. Or you can do cross dissolve front and back layers. Let's go for the whole lot. Let's go front and back layers and see exactly what will happen. I will click OK, and here you are. In a second, a composition is created. You can see here aerial view forest, and the name has been taken from the video we have selected to take the dimensions from. And then it is open now in your timeline, and you can preview it in the preview. If you come over here and scrub through, you will notice now you're ready to work and start adding, for example, lower thirds. Let's press the space bar and preview a bit. Notice the dissolve, pretty nice. Let's go faster. Press space bar. very nice dissolve. Of course, you can take your time to play it. Now notice what's happening in the timeline. First of all the layers are listed in the same sequence you have selected them. That's pretty important. Then the total time of the composition is the total time of the videos and the image, 5 seconds, minus of course the overlaps here. So we have 4 overlaps, that will be 8 seconds. So now you are ready to start working and create your lower thirds, add some effects, do whatever you like. You created your composition. Now this is very useful and I would like you to get used to this kind of composition creation. Now notice also in the timeline you have now 2 compositions that you can preview and work on. If you want to switch, all you have to do is to click on the name over here. Now you are in the first composition, that is view city, and then you can click on the other one and you switch to view forest. Cool guys, so now you have learned how to create a composition from multiple footage in any. Until now guys, you have seen all the ways to create a new composition from footage, multiple footage, and a blank new composition. We still have a couple of options for CC 2018 which will turn out to be identical to what you have learned before. Let's see exactly how we can use them. Remember these 2 big buttons that you cannot see now because you have a composition over here. Let's try to close all the comps in the comp viewer. For that, you can come to first animation composition, the one that is open. You click on it and you say here close all, or you can say close other comps, but this one will be still seen. Let's close all of them. Here you are, they have been closed all together. Now these 2 main buttons will show. This is why I did not insist on working with them in the beginning, because as soon as you have a comp here, you need to close them all to see these 2 buttons, and actually you're doing more work than just clicking over here or choosing your footage. Fine, let's explore them a bit. If you come to new composition and click on it, you are back to creating a new composition from my beautiful icon over here. You set the name and you put all the settings here the way you would like them, and you click OK to create a new blank composition. So this button mainly is for new blank compositions. Now this one gets interesting. If you start After Effects or you start a new project, you have access to it in CC 2018. If you click on it, now you are back to navigating to choose your videos or your footage the way you would like. Let's select, for example, these 3 videos and we take 1 image, is okay. Now you could check create composition. If you don't, you still have the same result where if you click import, it's gonna import the videos here and open the new composition from selection. So now you're back to new composition from selection. You select what you want to create, your options for the dimensions and the frame rates, and then the sequence layers or not. If you click cancel, you still have the footage that you have imported, and you can now right click if you like and you go back to new composition from selection. So these are the 2 options in CC 2018. They're not really major, but if you start a new project, it's fun to click over here. That's it. The first part of layers editing I want to tackle is dropping and trimming your layers. Okay, we need some footage here. So I will right click on the project panel, and of course, you go to import, file, and let's select these 2 images and 3 videos. That will do. I click import. Cool. I'll create a new composition now, which is 50 seconds long. 1280 by 720 will do. To have 50 seconds, guys, you can press 5. So that's 5 frames. This is 2 seconds because we are in base 25. Notice I'm looking over here. Okay. So 500 will be 5 seconds and 5000 will be 50 seconds. And here you are. Okay. The first method we learned to drop footage in the composition is just to select it, click and drag and drop it inside the comp. Cool. You can also click on a footage and come to the composition in the timeline now and decide that you want to drop it just over here. Now there is an interesting method that you can use. Let's take the time indicator to 25 seconds, for example. Okay, let's go to 25 precisely. If you click and drag your footage, okay, and you come on this side, you can decide where to drop it. You notice how you have another time indicator moving on. So you have the real time indicator and another head playing around, or the playhead. And you notice the time on the left now indicating where the new playhead is. Okay, so if I want to drop my video, for example, at 30 seconds, I can come over here, and it's pretty hard to get it at 30 seconds. The best way is to set your time indicator, come nearby and press shift. Okay, notice how they merged and you release. Here you are. The in point of the layer is exactly at 25 seconds, the way you would like. Now you can click and drag and adjust it anywhere you want if 25 seconds is not what you want. Let's look at this layer here. Let's take this layer. Let's move the other one here. You notice that on the left and right, you have two black rectangles. This means that this footage, the video itself, starts just at this in point. And before this in point, before the black triangle, there is no footage. There is no frames for the video. And actually the layer starts here. On the out point, that is O, you will notice also you have the black triangle, and it means because there is the black triangle, there is no footage after that. Cool. But as you notice the mouse pointer here, if I come to the beginning or to the end point, it changes into a double arrow. You can click and drag and trim your layer. Hopefully you know your video very well and you know what you are trimming. Okay, then on the out point you can do the same. You can click and drag. Now notice the in point and the out point of the layers have changed. Why? Because now you're working with the layer over here. You're not working with the footage. This is one way to trim the layers. I'll show you another way that we already seen. Let's take a whole footage, for example, and create a new composition. Let's say you want to trim everything from 1 second to the beginning of the composition. Not to the beginning where you see, to the beginning of the composition. So your zoomed in is gonna still trim to the beginning of the composition, okay? There is a very simple shortcut that you have seen already. It's Alt or Option on the Mac and left square bracket. Here you are. So it trims from the time indicator to the beginning of the count. Cool. There is another shortcut that you might already know is Alt right square bracket. We already said that. That will trim from the time indicator to the end of the composition plus or minus 1 frame. You notice there is a frame here that is left over. Notice the same techniques can work for a triangle, for example, or even for text if you like. Okay. You notice that text and shape layers are created for the length of the composition. You can still come over here. This is the in point. You can press I and you know it's the in point of this shape layer. If you haven't moved it, if you press I, you are in trouble. I will undo the move. Okay. Then you can also click when it's double arrow at the in point and just trim it. Or if you like, you can use the Alt or Option on the Mac and left square bracket. And of course, you can do the same for the end, provided you haven't moved the layer beyond the end of the composition or beyond the beginning of the composition. Okay, guys, you will not be able to see the in point. And here, of course, you can apply Alt or Option on the Mac and right square bracket. Here you are. You have trimmed the layer, the selected one. And of course, if you had selected more layers, it would have trimmed the same. So thank you very much. Hi guys, within this lecture, you are going to look at how to change the content of a video layer within the timeline without changing the time that this video is in the timeline. For example, let's extend all this, okay? And then I want this video to start at 10 seconds, just 10 seconds over here, to be precise. I'm gonna trim it, here you are. And then I want it to end at 20 seconds. Okay, I will trim it again. But whatever is happening in the video, whatever is appearing is not what I want. Well, I'm gonna show you the technique how to change the content. It's called slip in Premiere Pro, in fact. But in After Effects, it's called panning. This method will only work if you have a left and right handles. So the left handle is some frames on the left, okay, of the video itself that you haven't put in the timeline. You have trimmed from 10 seconds to the beginning. And you need also the handles on the right. It means you have trimmed from a certain point to the end of the video. So you have some space from left and right to move the content of the video. The first option goes like this. Notice the mouse pointer when I come to the left handle. It turns into a double arrow with 2 bars. It means I can click and move the video, okay? So I'm changing the content of the video. Usually what you do, you come to the in point or the out point and you click to change the content and decide where you want your video to start. For example, from here, okay? Or, not both of course, you come to the out point and you decide, okay, where you want the video to end. Okay guys, so if you wanted to start at a certain point and somewhere else that's not included, then you need to split it. We'll see that later. So actually this is the method if you can see the handles left and right. If you don't have them, you can do that. Well, there is also a tool in After Effects. This is the pan behind or anchor point tool. So actually it works for the anchor point tool and also it's a pan behind tool. So instead of just coming to the handles, when you are in the pan behind tool, you can click and drag your layer. So you decide, for example, you come to the in point, this is what you usually do, and decide exactly where you want it. From time to time, you want to come to a certain time, let's say 15 seconds or so, and you decide where your video should be at 15 seconds. For example, on the transition over here. So this is the pan behind tool. But let's go to another composition here. I have put some keyframes. Now usually what happens, you will draw a shape and you will change the position of the anchor point. And you're still in the pan behind tool and you come and click and you say nothing is moving. Well, actually this is a shape layer. It's very long. It's for the whole content of the composition. So if you use the pan behind, you can't pan anything. It's just one shape. But if you select a keyframe and use the pan behind tool and move to the right, for example, notice it's moving the keyframe while extending the shape layer. So the shape layer is not cut. You have a lot of left and right handles. Here you are. You notice what's happening. If you select the first keyframe, the same will happen. If you select both of them now, actually it's just moving the layer left and right with the selection tool. Cool. Now, when it comes to videos, if I select this layer and I didn't select any keyframe, of course, I'm panning left and right, okay, within the content of the video. Now, if I select a keyframe, here you are, you notice the keyframe is moving and some funny things are happening if you don't notice which tool you are using. I will undo that. Something else I want to show you that I forgot here. I want to change the color first of all here. I'm gonna take it to blue, something dark. Okay, we can see them now. You notice when I pan left and right, if I go too much on the right, where it is not really the start of the shape layer. We started the shape layer when we created it at this point over here. So you have these small dots over here or the small oblique lines. It means this layer has been shifted to the right. But then at the end here, they don't appear, okay? So you will have this kind of oblique line to tell you that, okay, you shifted this layer. Cool, guys? So this is how to use the pan behind tool. And remember, when you're selecting a keyframe, it's gonna move the keyframe. Very practical method when you want to delay an animation for any kind of layer, shape or video. By the way, everything I talk about here for the shape layers or the still layers, then it works for the images, okay? And even for some of the video techniques will work for images, but of course you're not gonna pan an image. It doesn't make sense. It's fixed. Okay, so this is how to use the pan behind tool. And this is how to change the content of your video when it's in the timeline, keeping the time of the video constant. Hi guys, and welcome to Layers Editing Techniques. This is the third part, I think, or the fourth. Nevertheless, you are going to learn how to split layers. And mainly, why would you split a layer? Well, there are a few reasons here, and there are your reasons, of course. Let's take an example. I have here a split layers composition. It is 10 seconds long, and I have a video that is 5 seconds long. So what I want to do is that in the middle at 2 and 15 frames, because we are in 30 frames per second, I want to add this composition happy and then go back to the same video. How would I do that? Well, firstly, you can drop another video and start, trimming left and right. But another way is to split a layer. To split a layer, you have the option under Edit. Edit Split Layer or Ctrl-Shift-D. Notice duplicate is Ctrl-D or Command-D on the Mac, and split layer is Ctrl-Shift-D or Command-Shift-D on the Mac. So I split the layer. Now notice the layer has been split above, exactly where the timeline indicator was. Now the split layer or the new layer is on top and of course on the right. Well, it's not always on the top. It depends on your preference. If you go to preferences and then you go to general, and here you have create split layers above original layer. Well, you can uncheck this and let's see what happens here. If I undo and go back, Control Shift D, okay, that's a shortcut. Here you are, it has been split and it's on the bottom. So depending on your preferences, you can decide if you want to put it on bottom or on top. I prefer to leave it on top, okay? That's what I like. You might want something else. I will undo, Control Shift D again. Now, you notice that it's an exact split. If you put the timeline indicator here and you zoom to the maximum, it's an exact split with the frames here. So what's the purpose of all this? Let's add another composition. Let's take the happy composition, here you are, and just drop it. So I press Shift, it will snap to the timeline indicator, and here you are. And then I can move the timeline indicator to the out point of happy, take the layer and just drop it on the timeline indicator. I press Shift, it's cool. So now if you play the animation, that's what happens. You have happy that's coming out, maybe it's too long here, and then directly you have the video that continues. So this is one way to use the split layer, is for you to, insert something in between. But sometimes you have other reasons. For example, the first part of the layer has a lot of animations, a lot of keyframes here, and you want to start afresh. So you split this layer. Notice that you still have the impulse. If you decide, for example, to move this guy here, you can just, snap over here, and this guy can snap over here. So actually, this is about split layer. It's very easy. Just split your layer in two, and sometimes it's very useful. Keep it in mind. And when time comes for you to have a very good application where you want to split the layers, you can apply it. Let's start looking at the work area and what we can do with the work area. Let's create a new composition. Here, all times is 14 seconds. I click on it and drag it to create new composition. So this video is very long. For example, I'm doing an intro for my YouTube channel, but actually I don't want the whole video. I just want, let's say, 5 seconds. And I know the 5 seconds, I want to start them at 3, okay, just from here, and then end them at 8, okay? I hope my count is right. And I want these 5 seconds to be the whole length of my composition. How do I do that? Let's come over here to 3 seconds. Then, you notice here you have work area start and work area end. Work area to start and end define the work area you are in. It's very useful sometimes when you are working on long videos that have a lot of effect to restrict the work area for a certain portion you're working on. In our case here, we want to trim this composition or to crop it to 5 seconds from 3 to 8. So the best way to do it is to drag the work area start to the timeline indicator. And of course you can press Shift, okay, to snap it. But there is another shortcut that's very useful. You press B, okay, for beginning. And then you come to 8 seconds. Let's write 8 seconds here to be precise. And you press N. We have seen the N before. Now, all I want is from 3 to 8 seconds, and I want the rest to disappear. That's what I want to work on. To trim this composition, you just right-click on the work area. So this is the work area line here. You right-click and you say, Trim Comp to Work Area. Here you are. Now, the work area has become 5 seconds. That's true. But it's starting from 3 seconds and it's ending at 8 seconds. Not exactly what I want. I want to start from 0 and end at 5. Well, you can use 3 and 8 is no problem, but to change that, it's very easy. You can right-click on the name, you go to composition setting, and here you notice you have start time code, 3 seconds. Just put 0 and we click OK. Fine. Now we have it starting at 0 and ending at 5 seconds. Not very true. Let's right-click, go to composition setting, and actually the duration is 5 seconds and 1 frame. There is always this 1 frame in excess. Call it a safety frame. The reasons for this 1 frame is to keep compatibility with the old kind of movies, and it stayed there. Usually it's supposed to be 0. Nevertheless, it doesn't bother me. It's okay, you can leave it there. 5 seconds and 0.1 frame is the same, or you can change it to 5 seconds. Now if you come back to the work area and try to right click, it's not working anymore. Why? Because the work area is as long as the composition and there is nothing to do. If you right click, there is no trim, extract or lift. Cool guys? So trim comp to work area using the two shortcuts, B for beginning and N for end, and then trim comp to work area to reduce your composition to the work area. You are going to learn how to sequence your layers within a composition. This technique is very important and it's very much in use when you're doing some kind of slideshows with videos and images and things like this. Let's say we select all our footage. Okay, that's all of them here. I will click and drag and drop them on create new composition. I want a single composition, of course, and let's make the duration 5 seconds. If you take the dimension from pollution is okay, and no sequence at all, and I click OK. So notice what happened. All the layers have come on top of each other in the same sequence I selected them. And now let's say you want to create a slideshow. The first thing is to decide how long a slide is gonna remain in view. Okay, so let's imagine we want to take 2 seconds only, or even 3 seconds will work. So let's bring the time indicator to 1 second and then select all your layers and trim them to the left. Okay, just like this. And then we go to 4 seconds and we trim them to the right. Alt and the right square bracket, here you are. And then let's go home. You click on all of them and bring them to the beginning, pressing shift, they will align. Sequencing your layers. You want to sequence these layers one after the other. How do you do that? You start by selecting which one you want first. In this example, we're gonna take them one after the other, okay? Then we try other things. Then you come to the layers here, you right click and you say keyframe assistance, okay? And you go to sequence layers, as simple as this. Now, if you want to create an overlap, that's very fine, but for now, let's try without the overlap. And I click OK. So notice what happened. You actually created a 2 second or 3 seconds sequence or a slideshow from all the layers as selected. You notice? And it's very beautiful. I'm gonna undo this. Let's stop the animation. Now I will right click and go to keyframe assistant again. And let's try it with the overlap. I'll put overlap, and let's say the overlap you wanted only 20 frames. That's enough. You can have a gross dissolve front layer, whatever you like, and you click OK. So notice now your slideshow is ready, and you can start now working, adding lower thirds, adding some explanation if you like, and you're on. Let's try another example here. I will undo. Now let's select them in a certain order. We start with pollution, then all times, for example, then photographer, then the MP4 for photographer, then my company. I will right click, go to keyframe assistant, here you are, and then go to sequence layers. Let's give them an overlap and I click OK. Here you are. Now you have them really sequenced in a certain order, the way you have selected them. If I were you, I will just make sure that I will rearrange them in the right order, you know, taking them up and down to put them in the right order. Sequencing layers, you are going to use it a lot, and it's very useful when you're doing some slideshows, like I said, and in motion graphics is gonna be great help for you. We still have 2 options within the work area: the lift work area and the extract work area. You need to learn these ones and keep them in mind. They are actually very practical when you are doing video editing. Let me give you an example. Let's start with the work area lift. I created a composition from the old times because it's 14 seconds. And let's say from 4 seconds, okay, to 8 seconds, I don't want this portion. I want to remove it. So the way to work about it is to go to 4 seconds, here you are, and then you bring the beginning, B, to the timeline indicator, go to 8 seconds, and then, of course, press N to bring the work area and to the time indicator. If you right click, you have the option to lift the work area. When you lift in video editing, it means you delete, but you keep the space. Okay, we agree on that. Lifting is deleting and keeping the space. Here is the option. You notice what happened here. It has deleted all the content of the layers, but the space has remained. So the content has been deleted, removed totally, but the space has become blank. You're seeing the background here of the composition. And the layers have been split to make this editing possible. Okay, you cannot in After Effects delete a portion of a layer. This is not video editing. In fact, you cannot put clips like this on the same layer. This is compositing. So you need to keep layers on top of each other. So this is the object of the lift, is to remove the content and keep the space for the determined work area. Now let's see what work area extract does. Okay, I have two layers here to give you a better example. Now, if you right click and go extract work area, what will happen is, first of all, it will lift everything, meaning it will delete all the content within the work area. So it will delete everything from 4 to 8 seconds. That's just like lift. But then it will take whatever is remaining on the right side and move it to the left. That is the job of extract, and sometimes it's extremely useful. So without selecting any layers, you just right click and you say extract. So notice exactly what happened. First of all, the layers have been split, of course, and then the content within the work area has been deleted. If you click on this one like this and take it back, you will notice whatever was from this layer all times under the work area was deleted. And then whatever was from the end of the work area to the end of the composition was shifted to the left. Okay guys? So now we have covered the trim comp, the extract and the lift. Please keep them in mind, because later on when projects become very big, you know how to use them. Hi guys, I hope you're learning lots of techniques and you will remember them. Nevertheless, you can always come back to the course and check out these techniques and refresh your memory and use them. Using them and doing some exercises will really help you. It doesn't have to be exercises within the course. Anything that you would like to try, then it will cement in your memory and you will upgrade your skills. So in this lecture, you are going to expand your skills and learn about the source panel, mainly used to edit videos. Let's start. I'll create a new composition and let's call it source panel. So now you have a reference when you come back to this file, which composition we used to work with the source panel. I'll make it 20 seconds and let's put the background to black. Okay, that will be better. Click OK to create it. So I have the source panel over here. Now I have too many compositions here. To close them all except the source panel, you will come to the source panel name just like this and click. Okay, and then you can see here close other comp views and close all. I will close other comp views. I will select, and here you are. All of them have been closed except the source panel. Let's take a footage, for example, pollution. Now, if you double click on the footage from the project panel, notice what's going to happen. It's going to open in the source panel. Well, it's called the source panel, though you can see the footage word here. It means the footage you are editing is pollution in the source panel. So that's why sometimes you find After Effects user calling it the footage panel. So notice now the composition panel is over here and the footage panel is over here. So if by mistake you double click on a video, for example, or an image, then it opens over here. You know you are in the footage panel and this is your composition. Of course, you can come and close it. So what can you do in the source panel? You can press spacebar to play your video and preview it. And notice here what you have. We have set in point to current time and set out point to current time. If you are a user of Premiere Pro, you should be very familiar with this panel. So obviously here you can come and set the footage. Notice the time. You can click on the time here. Of course, this is the time for the source. And say, for example, I want to start at 4 seconds. Here you are. So the playhead will jump to 4 seconds. Cool. You can set the in point. Set in point to current time. There is no shortcut here. Then you can say, okay, let me go to 8 seconds. Here you are. And click OK. And then I want to set the out point. Now you have the timing here. The in point is at 4, the out point is at 8, and the duration is 4 seconds plus 1 frame. So now you have edited your footage. Okay, the first thing that happens, let's go back to the composition. If I click on the footage now and drag and drop it in the timeline, for example at 3 seconds over here, notice now the footage did not come completely. Only the duration that you have set in the footage panel has dropped inside the composition. So actually you have trimmed your initial footage. You have created a clip. Let's get it a bit more advanced. Let's duplicate the footage. So we have now pollution MP4 2. So I double click on it. And then here you notice what happened. All the timeline has been opened. So you can come over here, say, okay, I want my first in point at 1 second. I will set the in point. And let's go at 3 seconds. I will use the time here just to get used to it. Okay, it is 3 seconds. And then set the out point. So I have only 2 seconds here. Cool. So now if I click on the footage, drag it and drop it in the timeline, for example at 10 seconds. Notice what's happening. So now I have a different clip. Over here I have this clip which is 4 seconds. Okay, and in here I have another clip that is 2 seconds. You get me what you're doing, guys? You're practically cutting your video into clips. You duplicate your videos and cut them into clips. Well, think about it a bit, guys. If you're working, for example, with a video that is 3 minutes long, you have taken a video yourself of a gig or something, and you want to cut it in pieces, in clips. The pieces are called clips, and start dropping them in the timeline and then organizing the visual effects and whatever motion graphics you want to add. This is a perfect method to create clips. This tip is very important. It's really quite professional, where you can create video clips from your initial footage. Cool, guys? Now I'm gonna delete these two, remove them from the composition, and let's take another video, for example old times. Okay, click and drag, put it in the composition just over here. Okay, let's come to 6 seconds here. You can go back to your source panel and decide, okay, these 2 seconds I don't like. I want to have only 2 seconds, but I want to move the in and out point. So notice in the middle here, there's some kind of 3 bars. Okay, you will see it if you're trying with me. And then you click and drag it. Okay, so actually that's the footage I want to insert. But now you have 2 options here to insert your footage. One is a ripple insert edit and one is overlay edit. Now the time indicator is at 6 seconds. Cool. If you use overlay edit, it's just create a new layer and add your footage. Here you are. And of course it has jumped to the composition panel where you can start working. Cool. So the overlay edit is very easy. Now something very important. When I drop the footage inside the composition is no more footage. I cannot re-edit from here in the footage panel. Just to bring it to your attention now, we'll do it in the next lecture. If I double click, I will be in the layer panel. Okay, guys, so be careful. If you want to edit the footage, you always come from the project panel. Let's undo and see exactly what the ripple insert edit does. The ripple insert edit is very common in video editing. What does it do? First of all, it will insert your footage in the panel. The in point will come in the time indicator, and all the footage on the right will be moved to the out point of the footage. Okay, guys, let me show you an example. If you click here, notice what happened. First, your footage has been inserted, and of course it's a new layer. Then it has cut the below layers, okay, where everything before the in point of your footage remained on the left, and everything that was on the time indicator is now at the out point of your new footage. You see, they start from over here. So actually it has inserted your footage and moved everything to the right, starting from the out point of your footage. So mainly this is the use of the source panel, is to edit your footage, put an in and out point, and decide if you want to do a ripple insert edit or an overlay edit. It's not complicated at all, mainly if you're used to video editing. But in After Effects, it looks weird because of the number of layers that are created here and how the layers are split. Okay, that's all about the source panel, the ripple insert edit and the overlay edit. And I hope you get a long video that you have shot yourself and try to create clips by duplicating and setting the in and out point for every clip. Hi guys, please make this section of great interest to you. Please try to learn or overview everything I taught you in this section. It's very important. And this is how you become an expert in After Effects. It's not only about motion graphics, circles and rectangles and lines, moving them around. It's also about learning how to deal with videos so you can apply lots of other effects. We have seen already the footage panel. The footage panel is used to edit footage, okay, to set an in and out, and to insert or to overlay. You remember that when you drop your footage inside the composition is no more a footage. Now it's a layer over here. Unless you go back to the project panel, you can edit the footage. But over here, it has become a layer. So if you double click on the footage here, be it a video or an image, you double click, it will open in the layer panel. Why the layer panel is very important. The first small thing you can do is change the timing. But notice what's happening here. Instead of using the pan behind tool, I can just pan over here and see exactly what I'm looking at from here. Okay, that's very important. On the composition here, I'm a bit blind. Okay, I don't see what's happening, but here I can see what's happening. If I go to the in point of the layer, I press I, it goes to the in point in your layer panel and in your, of course, composition. So actually the layer panel is a bigger view or a better view of your layer, be it a video or an image. So here makes it very easy to set your in point, to set your out point, and notice the edit is instant in the composition. But the layer panel is not only for this. It's also used with several tools. The first one, which is very nice, is the brush tool. This is where you come and apply brush or the effect motion graphics brush, and you design it just over here. Of course, you're gonna go through the paintbrush, but I just want to draw your attention. You can start adding, some brush strokes here. Then also it is used with the clone stamp tool. I'm sure you know this one. You press Alt and you start cloning on the other side. Okay, something like this. It's also used with the eraser tool, my favorite. You just erase. Okay, you're erasing everything, and behind you don't see anything. The layer is transparent. Also, it's used with the roto brush tool, the famous one. You can just, decide, okay, I want this part or the other part, and then separate the foreground. If you look over here, you have the view. You have the chance to view whatever you like. First of all is masks. This is by default. And then the anchor point. Because there are certain animation with the anchor point that you will do that are very interesting here, and it's like panning or stories like this. Now also, since I use the paint, you notice now I can see the paint over here. And also I have the roto brush tool, I can see it over here. So actually if you go to none, you can see everything without any effect. Masks, you can see masks, and of course the rest here, paint and so on, you can see them. Actually, this is about the layer panel, and it's very important. For now, there is little work for you in the layer panel. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture.